I'm Dana, 34, originally from Portland, and I currently reside in Seattle. I was forced to move a few years ago since I oversee marketing for a computer firm. Before my mom called me 6 months ago, my life was rather typical. With a trembling voice, Mom replied, "Dana, honey, I need to ask you a huge favor." "What's the matter?" I stiffened instantly. "It's Ethan, your brother. They are having financial difficulties since he lost his work. Little Charlie and Jessica need a place to stay while they recover from their lack of employment." I let out a sigh. Growing up, Ethan was always the troublemaker. He was 4 years my junior and had a talent for taking the simple route. He was my brother, although we weren't very close. "I no longer even reside in Portland, Mom. How should I proceed? The flat that you purchased with Grandma's inheritance funds is now vacant. They may remain there for a little period of time, 6 months, till Ethan gets employment." I gave my temples a massage. My financial lifeline was meant to be that apartment. We divided the proceeds from Grandma's house sale when she passed away. I purchased that place with my half, and Ethan, I had no idea what had happened to his money. In a few months, it disappeared. I was going to rent it out, Mom. My realtor is already searching for renters. In order to pay off my mortgage, I need that rental revenue. Please, Dana." Her voice broke. "Only half a year," he pledged. I imagined that Ethan, Jessica, and their son Charlie, who is 3 years old, had nowhere to go. Jessica had always come across as accountable. She would at least maintain cleanliness. Give it some thought. "Honey, they have to move in next week. They are unable to pay for another month at their residence." It was crucial, of course. Ethan was constantly involved. I gave my friend from college, Mark, my realtor, a call that evening. "Hey, I have to postpone the rental arrangements. An emergency in the family." "Really?" "3 possible renters are scheduled to come look at it this weekend." "I apologize. I understand. My brother needs a place to stay for what is reportedly 6 months. Dana, that will cost you. What do you pay for your mortgage in Seattle? $2,100? Indeed. And for that reason, I required the rental revenue." Mark answered, "Well, family first, I guess," but I could hear the skepticism in his voice. I gave my mother another call the next morning. "All right. Ethan is free to remain there. No more than 6 months. Today, I will mail the keys." "Oh, thank you, my love. They are being saved by you." Ethan assured me that he would be the ideal renter. I felt like I had just been steamrolled when I hung up, but that's just the way family is. Particularly mine. During the call, Dad was most likely hiding in the background and letting Mom handle the emotional burden. 2 months passed quickly. Before I had to take a plane back to Portland for a conference, I was so busy with work that I hardly gave the living issue any attention. The night before I arrived, I gave Ethan a call. "Hey, I'm in town tomorrow. Thought I'd stop by and see the place, catch up with you guys." There was a pause. "Actually, tomorrow's not great. Charlie's got a thing at daycare, and the place is a mess. Why don't we meet at Mom and Dad's? We'll come over for dinner." "Oh!" Something in his voice sounded off. "Sure, that works." "Great. See you there." After hanging up, I felt uneasy. Was it weird he didn't want me to see my own apartment? Maybe not. They probably were embarrassed about their situation. Still, I'd wanted to check on the place, make sure everything was okay. The next evening at my parents' house, Ethan arrived with Jessica and Charlie. Charlie had grown so much since I'd last seen him, racing around the living room while the adults talked. "How's the apartment working out?" I asked, watching Jessica's face for any signs of trouble. "It's perfect," Ethan said quickly. "We really appreciate it, sis." "It's very comfortable," Jessica added. "And the location is great for Charlie's daycare." Then, out of nowhere, Ethan cleared his throat. "Listen, Dana, I hate to ask this, but I found this great retraining program. It would guarantee me a job in web development, but it costs $5,000. My jaw nearly dropped. $5,000? I'll pay you back in a couple of months when I start working. I promise. It's an investment in our future." Mom and Dad exchanged glances, and I knew they were in on it. This wasn't a spontaneous request. "Ethan, that's a lot of money." "I know, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. This is my chance to turn things around." I looked at little Charlie playing on the floor. I thought about my savings account, which was healthy but not unlimited. "Fine," I finally said. "I'll transfer it tomorrow." "You're the best, sis." Ethan grinned, giving me a big hug that felt a little too enthusiastic. I didn't visit the apartment that trip. Something told me to just let it be. I trusted Jessica to keep things in order. And if Ethan was really going to get training and a job, then things would work out. 6 months would fly by, and I'd have my apartment back to rent out properly. Another 4 months passed in a blur of deadlines and meetings. Seattle kept me busy enough to almost forget about my Portland apartment situation. Almost. I had just finished a presentation when my phone buzzed. It was Mark, my realtor friend. "Hey Dana, quick question. Did you decide to rent out your apartment yourself?" I froze. "What?" "No. Ethan's still living there." "That's weird, because I just saw a listing for it online. Same address, same photos I took last year. I'll send you the link. Call me back after you look." The text came through seconds later. With shaking hands, I clicked the link and felt my blood pressure spike. There was my apartment, my furniture, my carefully chosen decor, advertised as a romantic getaway for daily rentals. Cozy love nest in a quiet, peaceful area with beautiful park views. Comfortable king-sized bed, perfect for couples seeking privacy and romance. The contact person? Ethan Mitchell. His phone number was right there. I nearly threw up at my desk. My beautiful apartment was being used as some kind of hourly hotel. How many strangers had been in my bed, using my things? My mind raced with horrifying images. I quickly took screenshots of everything and called Mark back. "Did you see it?" he asked. "I can't believe this," I said, my voice shaking. "He's renting out my apartment to couples for, God, I couldn't even say it." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to Portland tomorrow." I hung up and marched straight to my boss's office to ask for 2 days off. That night, I booked the earliest flight to Portland and packed a small bag. I could barely sleep, imagining all kinds of people in my apartment, touching my things, sleeping in my bed. By the time I landed in Portland the next day, my shock had hardened into pure rage. I took a taxi straight to my apartment building. I still had my own key, but I knocked instead. No answer. I knocked harder. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the door opened. A man wearing nothing but boxers stood there. A woman in a bathrobe peeked from behind him. "Can I help you?" he asked, clearly annoyed. "Yes, actually." "This is my apartment," I said, struggling to keep my voice even. They exchanged nervous glances. "We rented it for the day," the man said, "from a woman named Jessica." "May I see the agreement?" He reluctantly grabbed his phone and showed me a rental agreement with Jessica's signature at the bottom. "Thank you. I'm so sorry, but you've been scammed. I own this apartment, and Jessica is my sister-in-law. She has no right to rent it out." The couple's faces fell. "Are you serious?" "We paid $150 for the day." "I wish I wasn't serious." "You should probably get dressed and leave. I need to deal with this situation." After they hurriedly packed up and left, I stood in my apartment, stunned. Everything looked different. My bedspread was new, cheaper. Several decorative pieces were missing. The place smelled like a mixture of cheap air freshener and strangers. I called Ethan immediately. "Hey, sis," he answered casually. "I thought you were in Seattle. I'm in Portland. I need to pick up some important documents and my photo album from my apartment. I'll stop by later today." There was a pause. "Oh, don't worry about it. I can find those things and bring them to Mom and Dad's." "That's so thoughtful," I said, forcing sweetness into my voice. It was the perfect trap. Those documents and photo album didn't exist. I had deliberately made them up to see how he'd react. "Perfect," I continued. I'll see you at Mom and Dad's later. I hung up and waited. If I knew my brother, he'd be panicking right now, rushing to my apartment to clean up evidence of his side business before I arrived. So I went in my car, parked it where I could see the entrance to my building, and waited. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, Ethan's blue Honda pulled up. He dashed inside, looking frantic. I gave him an hour, plenty of time to search for non-existent documents and probably try to hide evidence of his rental scheme. When he finally emerged, his face was pale and he was frantically making phone calls. I stepped out of my car and walked toward him. Looking for something, Ethan? He jumped like he'd seen a ghost. Dana? What the? Surprise. There are no documents, Ethan. But I did find something interesting, your little side business. His face went from shock to desperate pleading in seconds. I can explain. Explain what? How you've been renting my apartment to couples for romantic hookups. Using my bed? My things? You don't understand. I needed the money. You have it easy, good job, no kids. You have no idea what it's like for us. Jessica hasn't found work. Charlie's daycare costs a fortune. You lied to me. To Mom. To everyone. Give me my keys. Now. I can't right now. I have bookings for the next few days. People have paid deposits. I laughed in disbelief. You think I care about your illegal bookings? Keys. Now. Or I go to the police. You wouldn't. Try me. He stepped back. Let me talk to the people who booked first. I'll bring the keys to Mom and Dad's tonight. I'm not staying with them. I'm at the Courtyard Marriott downtown. Room 312. Bring them there by 8 p.m. or I'm calling the cops first thing tomorrow. I turned and walked away, my whole body shaking. Part of me knew my parents would side with Ethan. They always did. So I deliberately checked into a hotel rather than staying with them. I needed neutral ground for what was coming next. I barely made it back to my hotel room when my phone exploded with notifications, Mom, Dad, and 3 missed calls from Ethan. I took a deep breath before listening to the first voicemail. Dana, it's Mom. What do you think you're doing? Ethan just called us in tears. You're threatening your own brother with the police. Have you lost your mind? Delete. The second one wasn't any better. Your father and I are extremely disappointed in you. Family doesn't do this to family. Call me back immediately. I tossed my phone on the bed and stared at the ceiling. This was exactly why I'd checked into a hotel instead of staying with my parents. In their eyes, Ethan could do no wrong, and I was the villain for holding him accountable. My phone rang again. Ethan. I answered this time. You can't do this to me, he said immediately, his voice a mixture of anger and fear. If you go to the police, I could lose my job. My reputation would be ruined. You should have thought about that before turning my apartment into a pay-by-the-hour motel, I replied coldly. It wasn't like that. It was just a way to make some extra cash. With my property. Without my permission. Do you have any idea how violated I feel? How many strangers have been in my bed, Ethan? I always change the sheets. Oh my God. Stop talking. I felt nauseous again. I want my keys in the next 48 hours, or I'm going to the police. And before you call Mom and Dad again, just know that nothing they say will change my mind. I hung up and immediately called Alan, my lawyer in Seattle. I need advice, I told him, explaining the whole situation. You've got a solid case for fraud, Alan said. He misrepresented himself as having authority to rent your property and profited from it. Plus, he's likely not reporting this income to the IRS. What should I do? Document everything. Those screenshots you took are good. The testimony from the couple who rented it would help too. You could file a police report and report him to the tax authorities. I just threatened him with that. Sometimes the threat is enough. Send him a formal cease and desist letter. I'll email you a template tonight. Include that you have evidence and are prepared to pursue both criminal and civil charges. After getting off the phone with Alan, I ordered room service and tried to calm down. But every time I closed my eyes, I pictured strangers in my apartment. In my bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of violation. Around 9:30 p.m., someone knocked on my hotel room door. I checked the peephole. Ethan. When I opened the door, he thrust my keys into my hand and turned to leave without a word. Ethan, wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. We need to talk about the damage to my apartment. What damage? Now he faced me, eyes narrowed. Several things are broken or missing, and it needs a deep cleaning at minimum. That's not my problem. Actually, it is. You took my apartment under false pretenses and used it for profit. I'm well within my rights to sue you for damages. You've got your keys back. What more do you want from me? I'm going to have an appraiser look at the apartment tomorrow. If you want to avoid legal action, you'll pay for all repairs plus compensation for what you've done. Ethan laughed bitterly. You really are a cold bastard, aren't you? Mom was right. I felt like he'd slapped me. Excuse me? I'm the one who was lied to and taken advantage of. I'm the one whose personal space was violated, and I'm the cold one. You've always had everything so easy. Perfect Dana, with her perfect job and perfect life. That perfect life came from hard work, not from scamming family members. You know what? I'm done talking. Expect an email from my lawyer tomorrow. I shut the door in his face, my hands shaking with anger. The next morning, I went straight to my apartment. In the harsh daylight, the damage was even more apparent. Stains on the carpet. A crack in my bathroom vanity. My designer couch had a mysterious tear. The place smelled like a mixture of cheap cologne and cleaning products. I called a professional appraiser who came that afternoon. His estimate, $10,000 for repairs and replacements to return the apartment to its previous condition. He gave me a detailed written report, which I immediately scanned and emailed to Alan. That evening, Alan sent me a formal demand letter addressed to Ethan. It outlined the damages, $10,000, and demanded an additional $10,000 for emotional distress and gave him 1 week to respond before we would pursue legal action. It also mentioned potential reports to the IRS regarding his unreported rental income. I forwarded the email to Ethan with a simple message, I'm not bluffing. Within minutes, my phone rang. It was Mom again. What is wrong with you? She screamed. A lawyer? $20,000? Are you trying to destroy your brother's life? Mom, do you even know what he did? He wasn't living in my apartment. He was renting my apartment to couples for intimate encounters, daily, for profit. He explained that to us. He needed the money. So do I. That's why I was going to rent it out legitimately. Instead, he lied to all of us and used my property without permission. That's illegal, Mom. He's your brother. He made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to return something. This was calculated deception that went on for months. Mom's voice softened slightly. Dana, please. This would ruin him. You have a good job. You don't need this money. This isn't about money. It's about respect and consequences. He needs to learn he can't just take what he wants and lie to get it. We raised you better than this, she said, her voice cold again. Your father and I are very disappointed in you. She hung up before I could respond. I sat on my damaged couch and cried for the first time since this whole mess began. Not because I felt guilty, but because my own parents couldn't see how deeply I'd been hurt by Ethan's betrayal. The next day, I returned to Seattle, leaving the apartment locked and empty. I'd arranged for a cleaning service to come the following week. I threw myself back into work, trying not to think about the family drama I'd left behind in Portland. 6 days after I sent the demand letter, $20,000 appeared in my bank account. The transfer was from Ethan, with no message attached. 2 days later, another $5,000 showed up. The money I'd loaned him for his retraining courses. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad. How had we become so broken as a family? I hadn't spoken to my parents in over a week, the longest we'd ever gone without communication. And Ethan. I couldn't even think about him without feeling a mixture of anger and betrayal. What hurt most was realizing that none of them, not Ethan, Not my parents seemed to understand how violated I felt. To them, I was just being difficult and unforgiving. But they hadn't seen strangers in their bed, using their personal space for who knows what. With the money from Ethan in my account, I took 2 weeks of unpaid leave from work and returned to Portland. The apartment needed serious attention, and I wanted to oversee the repairs myself. I hired contractors, replaced the damaged furniture, and supervised a deep cleaning that took 3 full days. The whole time, I kept thinking about how things had spiraled so out of control. I hadn't spoken to my parents in almost 3 weeks now. They hadn't called, and I hadn't called them. The silence was deafening. As for Ethan, I had no idea what was happening with him, and honestly, I didn't care. The betrayal was still too fresh. When the renovations were complete, I called Mark. The apartment's ready. I need good tenants this time. A stable couple with steady jobs who will sign a long-term lease. Got it, Mark said. I actually have a nice couple in mind. Both teachers. Been married 5 years, no kids yet, excellent credit. Want to meet them? A week later, I signed a 2-year lease with Thomas and Ella Chin. They seemed lovely, exactly the kind of responsible tenants I'd wanted from the beginning. I gave them my contact information and flew back to Seattle, feeling like a chapter had closed. Work consumed me for the next month. My boss had been understanding about my absence, but I had a lot of catching up to do. I threw myself into projects, staying late and working weekends. Anything to avoid thinking about my family situation. Then, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Mom. I stared at the screen for several rings, debating whether to answer. Finally, I picked up. Hello. Dana? Mom's voice sounded tired. How are you? I'm fine. Working a lot. An awkward silence stretched between us. Then Mom sighed. There's something you should know. Ethan confessed to us last week that he and Jessica bought their own apartment 6 months ago with a mortgage. He never lost his job. There were no financial problems. I sat down, stunned. What? He made it all up. The scheme to use your apartment was just a way to pay off their mortgage faster. He's been renting it out since the very beginning. The revelation shouldn't have shocked me, but it did. So where were they living when they supposedly needed my apartment? In their own place. They bought it right before he asked to stay in yours. I laughed bitterly. Wow. Just wow. And you believed him all this time. We didn't know, Dana. He lied to us too. Her voice cracked. Your father and I had a huge fight with him. We told him he needs to pay back every penny he made from renting your apartment, or we're cutting him off completely. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated that my parents finally saw Ethan for what he was. Another part felt deeply sad that it had come to this. I'm sorry we didn't believe you, Mom continued. We should have listened. Yes, you should have, I said, not ready to let her off the hook completely. Will you come visit soon? Your father misses you. Maybe. I need some time. After hanging up, I sat in my apartment, thinking about everything that had happened. The whole situation felt surreal, like something out of a bad movie rather than my actual life. 3 months passed. I'd started talking to my parents again, though things were still strained. We kept our conversations light, avoiding any mention of Ethan. I visited them twice, carefully timing my trips to ensure Ethan wouldn't be there. When I checked my account one day, I saw that Ethan had made 3 $5,000 deposits. Not a message. No justification. Only the cash. Uncertain of how to feel, I gazed at the television. This was most likely the money he had earned by renting my place. He had made money by lying and being betrayed. It wasn't what I wanted. It was contaminated. I sent the full $15,000 to the Children's Hospital Foundation after giving it some thought. Giving the money to ill children felt like the finest way to purify it if there was any way to do so. I sent my parents an email to update them on my financial situation. That night, Dad gave me a call. You did a good thing with the money, he said. I am proud of you, as is your mother. Thank you, Dad. He cleared his throat. Ethan occasionally inquires about you, is curious about your well-being. I'm not prepared to speak with him. I get it. He is aware of his serious error. When he knows you'll be here, he doesn't even show up. Too embarrassed, I believe. All right. He ought to be. I went back to Portland last month to celebrate my parents' anniversary. The three of us had a lovely meal. After that, Mom quietly revealed that Ethan and Jessica were having another baby as I was helping her with the dishes. I remarked, concentrating on drying a plate. That's nice. Dana, he has changed. The entire ordeal compelled him to mature. I gave a nod but remained silent. She questioned, do you think you'll ever forgive him? Setting down the dish towel, I turned to face her. Perhaps one day. However, not just yet. With Thomas and Ella, the Portland apartment is doing well. Mark frequently checks in to make sure everything is in order, and they pay their rent on time. I no longer worry about my home payments in Seattle. A new normal has been established in life. My parents no longer press me to make amends with Ethan when we speak once a week. At least they are making an effort to comprehend. There are moments when I ponder what I would say to Ethan if I ran into him again. Shall I shout? Weep? Pay attention to what he's explaining? I'm still unsure. However, I am aware of how difficult it is to regain trust after it has been damaged. Perhaps one day we'll discover how to be brothers and sisters once more. Perhaps this betrayal's edges will soften with time. But for the time being, I'm concentrating on my own life, including my friends, my job, and any remaining family ties. If this entire experience taught me anything, it's that sometimes setting boundaries with the ones you love the most may be the most difficult. However, they are also the most essential.